in limousines. It's like, who would have thought this would happen? Not us. I said, hey, you see, it finally paid off. It took a long time to get there, but it finally was a good idea to keep me, you know. She thinks that's very funny. So, but yeah, she put up with a lot. My work touched her work. There was an occasion when I had Gilbert Eugenio Archibek goes into a bar, kills 3 people, sets the place on fire to conceal the triple homicide, goes to a Quickway store next door, kills the 2 clerks who are sisters, and runs off into the night. 5 dead. Kathy doesn't see me for 3 days. Before cell phones, before any of that crap. She didn't know where I was, she didn't know what I was doing. She comes to work at the hospital one morning, and there's a respiratory therapist guy that she knows but doesn't know well. She knows his first name, you know. Kathy was afloat. She was a jack of all trades, master of none. You know, she wherever they needed somebody, she'd go there. So she was in the operating room, she was in the ER, she was wherever, you know, Peds ICU, wherever they needed somebody in the hospital as an RN, boom, there she goes. So she's charge nurse on this floor. She walks in, you know, this guy, it gets up to her 1 inch from her nose. And he says, your husband killed my brother last night. And she's pretty smart and thinks on her feet. And she said, well, Michael, I don't know what happened between your husband and my brother, or your brother. But you and I worked together for 10 years and we never had a problem. And we're not going to have a problem now, are we? And he thought about that for a minute, and no. And he walked away. So I finally saw her later that day, and she says, what the hell is going on? Sorry, I didn't kill him. He killed himself. He was on the phone. I was talking to him when he did it, but you know, technically I didn't kill him. Yeah. And so those moments happened to her. Blindsided by them, because she has no idea who these people are, what's going on, nothing. At least I knew who the bad guys were. She didn't. So life has a way of getting to everybody involved when you do this for a living. I enjoyed it immensely. I wouldn't have done anything else. I don't think she would have either, really, at the end of the day. But it certainly made things interesting. It kept our life interesting and kept us involved in things, and still does. And there are people in a cage who I put there who need to be in a cage. And a lot of them are still there. That's a nice feeling. They can't hurt anybody else anymore. Because some of those people, not everybody that kills is a monster. They're not. But there are some that are. And what do you do when you identify a monster? What do you do with them? As an example, a guy named Raymond Lee White. Raymond Lee White is a white male who is movie star handsome. Women would drop their groceries and follow him down the street. He's incredibly good looking. He's a weightlifter. He sold tanning beds for a living. Hollywood tan, flashing white smile, gigantic guy. He liked to kill people. Some people like to watch television. He liked to kill people. He was responsible for 15 murders that I could prove. He said he did 23, and it was a game to him that I didn't know who the other 8 were. Raymond was a trip. So you have him sitting in an interrogation room. He's about to be questioned for multiple counts of murder. He's handcuffed in front of him. You know what he's doing? He's asleep. You know why? He's bored. Hello, Raymond. Hi. What do you want? I want to talk to you. I find you to be interesting. Good? Now this guy, you can talk all you wish about how he came to be what he is. Had lots of arguments and lots of schools of thought on how people are driven to this point in their lives. But that wasn't my thing. I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a social scientist. What do we do with Raymond? Now that we know who he is and what he does, what do we do with him? Now, we put him on death row, I did. But the Colorado Supreme Court, in their wisdom, said they were going to show him mercy, and they reduced his term to life without. The interesting thing about Raymond is, to this day, as we speak, Raymond is suing the state of Colorado, demanding to be executed. He is like jail, and he wants to be killed. So he is suing the Supreme Court to overturn their leniency, as if that's going to happen. But whatever, that's what he's up to. So there are those people you encounter who really are monsters. They're not just people who made a mistake, who did something really stupid, who let their emotions overcome themselves, who did something they were truly repentant for. Not Raymond, you know? To give you an example of how he is or what he is, he's talking to me because he likes me, because he and I make friends, because I admire his work. That's his thing. Admire me. You know, I'm a killer. I'm really good at it. You certainly are, Raymond. You know, good. You know, he likes me. So anyway, he has a roommate. 4 years. This guy's his roommate. A guy. Raymond is a Star Trek fan. The original Star Trek with Leonard Nimoy and all those kinds of things. He finds some service that has those shows. So he's watching one of his Star Treks. His roommate comes in and changes the channel to watch a football game. He forgot to ask Raymond's permission. Raymond shoots him in the face with a .44 Magnum revolver, wraps him in a plastic shower curtain, and loads him in the roommate's pickup truck because he said he didn't want him to screw up his Camaro because he was leaking out of that shower curtain. Well, of course not, Raymond. You wouldn't have to clean the upholstery, you know. He takes the truck, he takes his chainsaw, he has a gun with it, because he always has a gun. And he goes to a state park, and he's going to cut up his roommate with a chainsaw and feed him to Mother Nature. Now, the truck has a lift kit on it, so you can't see in the bed. A woman, a man, and 2 little kids pull up next to him in a car. And he looks at them. He's telling me this. And I said, looked at them and I said, what do you want? Well, we're tourists and we're lost. And can you tell us how to get out of the park? And Raymond said, you know, I thought about that. I thought about killing him. And I thought, you know, I'm busy. So I told him how to get out of the park. Now, we never found those people, but I wonder what they would think of how close they came to being up close and personal with Mr. White. He then proceeded to do what he said he was going to do. And the only thing we ever found of the roommate was his skull. Mother Nature has a very good clean rubber department. You know? We found the skull. We identified the skull as being his roommate, but we never found any of the rest of it. Those people are extremely rare, thank heaven. They are very rare. But society has to preserve some method to deal with that guy. You can't let him out. You can't. He doesn't need a reason. He doesn't need a motive. He is profoundly dangerous. Can you rehabilitate people? Of course you can. Not Raymond, but there are people you can. Not everybody needs to be in prison forever, but a lot of people are in prison forever, okay? Doesn't mean immediately, but the Raymonds of the world, they kind of need to be in prison forever. Okay? They do. Because they've demonstrated a willingness to not be part of civilized society. They don't want to be part of civilized society. They have their own vision of society. And it's not exactly normal, okay? And it certainly is beyond dangerous. So those are some of the issues you have to consider when you think about changing the system. Well, okay, system certainly needs change. There's no question about that. But we need to think it through pretty carefully before we change it all. Because maybe that's not such a good idea at the end of the day for certain individuals or types of individuals. it's always, as they say, the devil is always in the detail. It's always good to have concepts, it's all very wonderful. The concepts are wonderful, but they're all quite vague. Somebody has to get down to the specifics. What exactly is it that we're going to do here? And why are we going to do it? And why are we going to do this and not this? And what's the argument? And everybody has to participate, and everybody has to come to a conclusion that society in general agrees. You'll never get everybody to agree to everything, but at least a majority agreement that this is what we should do. Okay, fine. So let's try that. Because what we're doing now doesn't work. It doesn't work. You can't put people in jail for selling dope for 40 years. You just can't do that. It sounds good. Politicians like tough on crime. They like that sort of thing. But how does it actually work? Not very well. They legislated, they want to talk about guns. We're going to outlaw guns. Okay. I thought heroin was outlawed, isn't it?
Yeah, right.
You can't sell heroin. By God, you can't even possess it. Because there are laws. You can't legislate how people behave in a free society. Free societies are messy. Things happen in free societies. That's why there are free societies. You want to stop crime? Stop it tonight. Tonight, you can stop it. All of it. Every other crime ever. You bring back an organization known as the Geheime Staatspolizei. They were more commonly known by their abbreviation, the Gestapo. You bring them back. The trouble is nobody liked the Gestapo. And your neighbors tended to disappear in the middle of the night and that sort of thing. Well, these things happen. You want to break an omelet, you got to break a few eggs. So could they stop it? Sure they could. They're going to kill half the population in the process, but it would stop. So you want freedom? You put up with messy. You want control? You put up with the Gestapo. I find something in between. In between is good. Extremes are never good. Either way, good. Everybody can't be free, and everybody can't be imprisoned. So there's got to be some ground here that we should be able maybe to find, because we should be smart enough to do that. But first we have to face the question. Big thing to face. Lots of problems. What do we fix first? I don't know. There are some things that need to be fixed. There's no question about that. I looked upon people based on their behavior. I didn't care if you were white, black, or green, and from the planet Avatar. How do you behave? If you behave badly, well, we got to do something about you, which has nothing to do with your race or your creed or your religion or your economic status or anything else. It's based upon what you do. And what you're doing is a bad thing. You're hurting people. You're killing people. What are you doing that for? We got to put a stop to this. That's all. Pretty simple stuff. Everybody should feel that way. Not everybody does. I always did. Sure. Question and answer time.